Welcome to our personality interview segment, The Aviator. Our guest is Roland IYAYI. Last week, he discussed tracking of illegal commercial private jet operators and the problems of airline operations in Nigeria. Here's the concluding part.
Roland IYAYI's experience in aviation spans over 3 decades. Academic qualifications. He obtained Master of Science degree in Air Transport Management from Cranfield University, Bedford, United Kingdom. Postgraduate certificate in Air Safety Management, University of Southern California, Los Angeles. IYAYI also has affiliations with National Business Aviation Association and International Society of Air Safety Investigators. Work experience. Roland IYAYI was the former manager, strategic planning and corporate development, Aero Contractors Limited, former managing director, Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, and currently the chief executive officer, Top Brass Aviation Limited.
Incidentally, a couple of days ago we had a meeting with the Honorable Minister of State Aviation, and he did very well, I must say. We had gone there with a list of issues that we had as airlines. We don't have access to foreign exchange, and over 90% of all our needs are in foreign exchange. I mean, buying aircraft parts, paying your lease rentals, your insurance, all of these are things that are denominated in US dollars. And we earn in Naira. And unfortunately, because of the paucity of foreign exchange in the country, it is very difficult at this point for airlines to access foreign exchange a lot easier than it should have been. And then again, we have a situation now, some agencies will just wake up and impose a tax or a regime of tariff that hasn't been approved by the regulatory authority. Now, the way the industry should work is that if a supplier or a service provider in the industry needs, for whatever reasons, to increase tariff on services, there's a need to engage the stakeholders and the regulatory authority for all parties to come together, and there should be a consensus. It should be seen that whatever is being done can be adequately managed by the industry so that the impact is not adverse. But unfortunately, it hasn't been the case. You have agencies just wake up and impose something and it's that, and nobody can do anything about it. And then of course, we also have a lack of enforcement of the regulatory regime. It will appear that the CAA at some point will turn a blind eye and then focus more on the licensed operators. Today, we have a lot of unlicensed operators. People have come into the country with private aircraft, and these aircraft ideally should be liable to paying 10% duty for importation. But they come under the guise of being commercial operators. But the NCA issues them with private certificates. But they go on to start doing commercial work. Now, as a commercial operator, you are required to charge your tariff on your sectors and 10%, your VAT, and the 5% of the NCA taxes. Now, these operators, this gray market, they do not do that. Whilst you, as a charter operator, will probably say you're charging $6,000 an hour for a charter, or $5,500, they can charge $5,000. And they're not charging taxes. So on top of your $6,000, you charge another $600. So that makes you $6,600. Well, they're charging $5,000. So you tell me where the customer is going to go to. And they do not have any overheads. They're not under any form of regulatory regime by the NCA. My view is that yes, we need to concession the airports. Like I said earlier, the government does not have the resource to be able to operate. Neither do they have the expertise to manage all these assets efficiently. And the inefficiencies in these assets, or of managing these assets, has a negative impact on the airlines. The airlines actually at the end, they end up losing everything. So we need to look at a situation where, as part of also managing the issues of airlines, we can concession airports to expert airport companies, not Roland IYAYI and Sons. We need to look at it from the standpoint that we're going to get people with a reputable, with integrity, with the credibility of running and having run airport companies around the world. We invite them. The Nigerian market is attractive because we're talking about 170 million people, a potential of 600 million in the region. And we're strategically located in the heart of both the east and the west sectors of our continent. So if that is taken into cognizance and there's a deliberate policy of government to exploit that potential, and you bring in the right people with the right expertise and cheap funding because they will invest, then we can start seeing the results. We do not have the necessary expertise in FAN, the requisite to manage our airports efficiently to the benefit of our country. That's a reality. But whether or not we want to accept it is another matter entirely. FAN, like every other aviation agency, has been used as a way of political patronage where we brought in all manner of people without the requisite expertise or knowledge of the industry to manage things they're not capable of managing. So it's a major drawback, and the airlines pay for it. So concessioning for me is the way to go, but it's not to take the international airports and leave the so-called unviable airports. No airport should be unviable, except of course our policies are not consistent with what is required to keep them viable. So we need to look at that, and I think if you license airlines properly and they use the right capacity of the aircraft, every airport is viable. So I would suggest that we concession airports in 5 blocks. We have 5 international airports: Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Kano, and Enugu. Let each of these airports take along with them 2 or 3 secondary airports, but you cluster them not in the same region, you spread them apart. So each block you can give to a competing airport company, not the same airport company. For each block, 1 airport company. And they would come up with strategies to ensure that they can manage all the airports in their block such that they can either get airlines to work with them to be flying to those to those airports on a discounted rate for maybe landing in the secondary airports like they do in some parts of the world. And then of course, because you're now pulling in more passengers, they can earn on passenger taxes. The more the number of people you pull into the airport, the more they can earn. But they can discount, your landing and parking. Why? If you look at it, the 737 that can take 150 passengers, right? It means if you reduce all the tariffs on the airline, and they can equally reduce their airline tickets, they can carry more passengers. Now, for the so-called unviable airports, if they can do the low-cost model, that's the airport company and the airlines working together, you'll find a situation where more passengers will start going into those airports that are seemingly unviable, simply because the airline can now fly in there at a discounted rate so that they can stay viable. But by taking in those passengers in there, the airport company will earn taxes. And the taxes they will earn on a full load of a 737 will be much more than they can earn on the landing and parking. So it's a matter of economics. Like I said, our airport company in Nigeria, the FAN, Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, they focus more on aeronautical revenues rather than non-aeronautical revenues. Within the airports, in our airport system, the airport companies focus more on non-aeronautical revenues to reduce the burden on the airlines, so that way airlines can manage themselves better, they can sustain the growth of those airports, so that the airports also will thrive. It's a symbiotic relationship. The aviation industry, there's so much potential in Nigeria. Unfortunately, like I said, we have policy inconsistencies over the years. We have distortions in the market. We have a hostile environment. If we can address this, and I believe we can, but the truth of the matter is that people believe that to address these problems, the government needs to pump in a lot of money. The government does not need to fund aviation. Aviation can self-sustain, given the numbers in this country. But we need to have the visionary, the right type of people, the expertise necessary to manage the different sectors in a coherent manner so that we can see that growth potential. And the government, like I said, can do it, but the political will has to be there to ensure that we're not talking about let's start something and then midway through we change it. The rules have to be consistent. When we show the world that we are ready and we've put in place the necessary frameworks that are, in line or in consonance with international standards, you will see people come in and flocking because, like I said, the market is in Nigeria.
The U.S. airline industry makes about $170 billion in revenue each year. The industry constitutes 600 companies, with the top 10 composing more than 75% of the industry revenue. The top 10 include American, Delta, and United Continental. Worldwide, the airline industry generates about $640 billion US.
And that's it on the program this week. Thanks for watching. I'm Lillian Ezemak. See you next week and bye.